Hello and welcome to another huge edition of the Final Siren Podcast, thanks to Rookie Me Central. I'm your host, Peter Williams, and once again, I'm joined here by AFL draft editor Michael Alvaro. Michael, how are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be a massive episode. We've got a couple of huge interviews with a couple of handy players, you might want to say. Sandringham Dragons duo Harry Sheezel and potential, most likely, number one pick, Will Ashcroft. Post their victory in the NAB League Grand Final over the Dandenong Stingrays. What a game for them. We're going to discuss that. We're going to talk about the Sample Grand Finals. We're going to take a look at the Futures Showcase, the Waffle postseason, and a massive National Championships decider coming up this Thursday. Michael, let's get stuck straight into it. What a win it was. The Sandringham Dragons celebrating that victory over the Dandenong Stingrays. That's going to be our first talking point today, Michael. Sandringham Dragons, 14-10-94, defeated the Dandenong Stingrays 7-9-51 at Icon Park, of course. Friday night fixture. It was always a little bit of an interesting one. We know that Dandenong weren't too happy going in about the scheduling, just purely because of players having sacks, having to get from the peninsula and regions like that to try and get to Icon Park. And unfortunately, it kind of looked like they were a bit out of sorts early on, Sandy kicking the first 5 goals.
Yeah, I mean, they were caught cold, weren't they? So, it was pretty tense across the first 10 minutes, a bit like you'd expect from a grand final. And, once Sandy hit the scoreboard once and twice with their majors, they just kept piling them on. Obviously, as you said, 5-0 in the first quarter. And then 9-2 at halftime. So it was pretty much over from then. Sting was out of the game, unfortunately, after halftime, and the tone was set. And Sandy, I guess, cantered to victory in the end.
Yeah, obviously it was led by Will Ashcroft, had the 39 touches, 26 of them were in the first half. It was looking like he was going to beat Matt Rowe's effort from a few years ago, the way he was going, having a huge day. And Dandenong did kick a few goals late in the game, but obviously it was done and dusted by then. So, it was spearheaded by Ashcroft.
Absolutely, best of field, and not to toot my own horn, but I think a few of us predicted it before the game, and it was the easy prediction. So, 39 touches. Real, I think, had 44 and a couple goals, so probably still beats him out there. But, incredible performance and fully deserving of best on. Obviously, his midfield partners, Cam McKenzie and Ollie Hodden, were terrific as well. So 25-2 for McKenzie, 25-1 for Hodden. Pretty outstanding efforts there. And Harry Sheezel up forward with 4 goals. And they were pretty much all rippers as well. So all Sheezel-like goals. And unfortunately, for Dandenong, they couldn't contain him.
Yeah, it was a tough day at the office for Dandenong, obviously. They had a few players coming back from injury or just being unable to play. It was a real tricky situation for them. They were loaded up to the point of where they were pretty much full strength. So, but having those underdone players in a grand final is always a bit tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. So the players you mentioned, obviously Morris medalist, Taj Campbell-Farrell came back in, had surgery to repair compartment syndrome, I think, in his feet. So that was a bit of a surprise. Then Mitch Sibkowski, we knew was going to come back from COVID. He started out the centre bounce with Campbell Farrell and Henry Huswaite, who came back from an ankle. So they all started in midfield, but once Sandy got on top, the magnets sort of started to shuffle, and they all sort of struggled to get their hands on it and really sort of overturn the wave of momentum that Sandy got early. And it's pretty hard jacker coming up against that midfield of the Dragons at the best of times, and they weren't caught at the best of times. So hence the result.
Yeah, no, and it's a great win by Sandy, obviously coming into the final series, or even, let's say, wild card round. Obviously, we both thought that Oakley might be the team to beat, and they were knocked out in that wild card round. So shows how random it can be. Sandringham were challenged by Murray in that very game, and was arguably the closest they got to losing. So potentially they could have been out, not even playing finals. But then since then, they really stepped it up. They managed to get the job done. Obviously beat Calder, then smashed Gippy, and then smashed Dandenong. So for me, they actually got better each week. The closer they got to a flag, the better they got.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just like speaking to Mark Wheeler and even a couple of the players, that continuity towards the end of the season. So stringing 3 or 4 games with, a steady squad together. That was really important for the Dragons, and you saw that it all clicked towards the end of the year, as you said there. So, really well done, and I guess it's a pretty constant theme for the Dragons, obviously, with the nature of the competition and all their private school boys. They figured it out, they got it done, and Wayne Cripps a flag in his first year as coach. Yeah,
and I know we'll discuss it later on in terms of the national championships, but Vic Country versus Vic Metro, quite a few of these boys are going to be running out again on Thursday.
Yeah, pretty much all the ones we mentioned. Pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, full credit to Sandringham there. Good win over Dandenong. Controlled the game, got the job done. Post-game, plenty of celebrations in the room. I know you had a chat to Harry Sheezel right after his performance.
Yeah, it's just always an honour, really, to speak to some of these guys. And, they are only kids, but future stars of the game. And, Harry's a great kid, so I hope you enjoy the chat, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to throw now to Michael speaking to Harry Sheezel post-game in the rooms.
Initial thoughts after that?
Oh, unbelievable. So much reward for so much effort throughout the year. Not just this year, actually, just the last few years, the whole boys, we built such a great connection from day one, and we've improved every week. Probably didn't look like it was likely for us to win the flag, but we just bought into what Crippo and everyone was saying, and it paid off.
Yeah, it must be pretty handy for you up forward. You've got Houghton, McKenzie and Ashcroft, of course, from midfield. So, it must have helped you then get in those 4 majors.
They're all stars, and they all rose to the occasion tonight. But not just them. I say our backline is the best backline I've ever seen play junior footy. All of them just play their role unbelievably, and we wouldn't be where we are without them.
You won many junior flags?
Nah, lost back-to-back flags in under 11s and 12s. That still hurts, but it's good to get one, the biggest one.
And obviously you've got one more game left for the year. Country versus Metro must be pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, I'm just focusing on tonight. Just enjoy that with the boys, and then recover well, and then focus on next week, which is another massive game, and I'll hope to play well then and show what I've got again.
Stiff not to be best on?
Nah, Ashcroft's a star, mate. He deserves it. He deserves all the recognition.
Congrats, mate. Pleasure to watch you play.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bevan.
Well done.
That was Harry Sheezel from the Sandringham Dragons, of course, potential top 5 pick, chatting to Michael Alvaro post-game after the Sandringham Dragons' big win over Dandenong Stingrays in that NAB League Grand Final. We're moving from Victoria across the border to South Australia. We're going to chat a bit about the SANFL Grand Finals recap, starting with the under-18s. It was Glenelg 8-13-61 defeating North Adelaide 7-11-53 in a day that probably Roosters fans would rather forget. But a great win by Glenelg, and in a nice, tight one too.
Yeah, well, it was a weekend to forget. Obviously, the grand final stretched over a couple of days between the grades. But, Glenelg, they won another thriller, pretty much 3 in a row to get to their flag glory. And obviously, last year's grand finalists went down to Woodville West Torrens. So I think they're probably the team that played the best or most attractive footy this year, so a pretty well-deserved victory there for the Bays. And, stiff opposition. They obviously had to overcome the top 2 sides and Sturt as well. So, a really, really great flag for the Bays.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, as you said, North Adelaide was the team that had the rest. They had the break. We know that's much spoken about. But, that Glenelg had a lot of players that didn't get to play throughout the year. They're back again. They were sort of regarded as one of the teams to beat because of the sheer number of players they had within the state hub and whatnot. So who were some of the players that really stood out for you?
Yeah, I was a bit like Sandringham in that regard, in that they get those players back. I think Jacob Ryan's the top of that crop. In terms of the guys that were missing with college footy that came back. He had 28 touches. Ben Ridgway did as well. So those 2 solid as ever. And Archie Lovelock, of course, best on ground. We've seen him in state colours, and he was fantastic. 35 touches, 7 tackles, and a goal. Massive performance on the big stage. Can't ask for much more from your midfielders and sort of key ball users. So, I thought those 2 were terrific in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And for North, who did you sort of see really caught the eye?
Yeah, well, Ollie Dignan, 4 goals. So, obviously a standout in front of goal with limited opportunities. Billy Dowling, Hugh Wisman, I think they both had 27 odd touches. And then, they probably just lacked that little bit of inspiration from some of their X-Factor players like an Isaac Keeler. It's not to say he was bad, but probably just couldn't take the game by the scruff of the neck as the Roosters would have liked.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, if we quickly run across the other competitions with the league and reserves, there wasn't a heap in terms of draftable representation. North Adelaide lost to Sturt by 31 in the reserves and then to Norwood by a point in the league. Obviously, Matt Panos kicked that winning goal out of the forward stoppage, so a real memorable moment for Norwood fans. They would have loved that, but not so much for Roosters fans, unfortunately, in their last chance to get a flag, because they did finish, they had the I should say. They didn't finish top on all grades, but they did win that first final to get through the grand final. They had it for all three and unfortunately walk away without any flags. But in the under-16s, we'll touch on briefly, Woodville West Torrens won that by 40 points, and you had a few players you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, unfortunately the Bays couldn't get it done in both junior grades, but they've still got some good players. But for the Eagles, of course, the winning side, a couple of familiar names. So Rome Burgoyne, he had 26 touches in a winning side. Tyler Welsh, of course, Adelaide father-son for a couple of years' time. He had 4 goals. Both terrific, have been all year. And Welsh as well in state colours. Another in that boat is Tom Luck, 28 touches, 6 clearances as a ruck. Tom Luck in the ruck, not too shabby. So really superb performers there. Of course, the Camporeale boys, for Carlton supporters like myself, will be of interest. Lucas and Ben, they had 27 and 19 touches, respectively, so looking pretty good. I guess they're sort of chips off the old block in terms of how they play compared to their old man Scott. Great runners, love to carry the ball and can kick long, so yeah, exciting.
Yeah, we do know that they were among the better players, quite a few of those names, at the 16 champs we saw earlier this year. From the 16s to the 17s, so obviously quite a few missed the Futures game that was played, but Team Yellow 11-11-77 defeated Team Blue 6-10-46 on Sunday morning. As we said, there were quite a few missing through either finals or injuries or things like that, but who sort of caught your eye in terms of the players that really stood out?
Yeah, Tom Tasker, I think he was terrific, son of Sean. I think he used to play for Adelaide. He was great. He's a North Adelaide boy. He kicked 3 goals for Team Yellow. Judd Hansen, a sort of small forward, kicked 2. So I think they were pretty dynamic and a good partnership up forward there. Benny Barrett, we know, as he sort of alluded to, that under-16 champs, he was fantastic there. And then you look at like the 2 Sturt boys, Lucas Slade and Alex Holt, and Alex Dodson as well, a ruck who is in that under-16 category but wasn't picked for the state side this year. I'm not sure why, if he was injured or something like that, but he was great. He looked pretty good across the field. And then for Team Blue, Jacob Newton and Sid Draper probably led the way, particularly, I guess, in the second half and last quarter when they showed a bit more fight. Jack Deline kicked a couple goals, and then Central District boys, Trent Totoli and Will McCabe, showed some signs. But yeah, look, as you said, plenty of talent missing as well. So Ashton Moyer would have played in the Glenelg Under-18s grand final. He was injured anyway. Patrick Weckard was injured. Then you had, obviously, a lot of the guys that we mentioned in those grand finals missed as well. So still a good showcase, but plenty more talent on the table in SA.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as you mentioned, Alex Dodson, one that you love to see players who might not have played at champs suddenly pop up and you're like, oh, there's a kid to remember. So I'm sure there'll be plenty more over the time, but definitely a tall 201 centimetres to remember, can play all 3 lines. So one to keep in mind for the future. From, the future to the present, Waffle Finals continued on the weekend for their second week of action. In the Colts, it was West Perth getting up and reaching the grand final, 6-7-43, defeating Peel Thunder 5-9-39 on Saturday. That was a low-scoring tussle, but the Falcons got it done.
They did, yeah, and the minor premiers across each grade. So they come into finals this week in all 3 grades, and yeah, the Colts started it off pretty well. Kane Bevan, the skipper, led the way, 26 touches, and then you got a couple more prime movers. Griff Julian had 26 as well, Luke Michael 24. So it's a good sign for the Falcons when those three are winning plenty of the ball. And then up forward, Noah Farrow, 3 goals just to cap it all off. So a pretty tight win, the first and second ranked teams this year. For Peel, Clay Hall had 24 touches, and I think we're going to see plenty more. And Mitch Edwards, of course, a bottom major, 26 touches and 24 hit-outs, so pretty handy. And then when you've got Jackson Broadbent as well, who kicked 2 goals, it's pretty formidable combo there.
Yeah, and while that was a tight, close tussle, the other final in the Colts, not so much. Subiaco, 21-14, 140. Absolutely smashed South Fremantle, 3-4-22. That's 118 points. That's a pretty one-sided affair.
Yeah, and not something you'd expect, like in the second week of finals. So, Subiaco was fantastic after a tight loss last week. Like, get Robert Hansen kicking 5, Tyrrell Dewar 3. They had 9 individual goal kickers. So, just a really potent sort of scoring effort. For the Bulldogs, less contributors or less significance, I guess, to some of their numbers. But Chase Bourne was good, 22 touches and a goal. So positive for the Fremantle NGA prospect there.
Yeah, and if we quickly touch on league, Jed Hagan, 13 touches, Jack Cleaver, 9. But unfortunately for East Fremantle, they went down to West Perth by 20, while Claremont beat Peel handily in the other finals. So that's the Waffle Finals recap for another day. We're just going to jump to an interview again. Another one from the Sandringham Rooms. You might have heard of this kid. His name's Will Ashcroft, Brisbane father-son prospect. We chat to him. He doesn't keep it a secret. He's going to Brisbane. We know that he has nominated them. We know they're going to take him. Very much similar to Nick Dacos last year. We know what's going to happen with him. But anyway, we chatted to him post-game. He obviously won best on ground. We're going to, after his interview, we're going to flick to the National Championships, have a bit of a discussion on that. But first, here's Will Ashcroft talking about that game and I guess his future. Not only that, but playing with his brother Levi at AFL level. Here he is now chatting to you in the rooms.
All right, with Will Ashcroft, moments after the big NAB League Grand Final win. How's that one?
Incredible. I think we put a lot of work in and finally got there, and we had a goal and a dream in mind, and as I said, we put so much time into it, and sort of coming from 8th, we didn't have the greatest regular season, but everyone coming back sort of gelled and just kicked off and just had a great year, had a great final series. Yeah,
it seemed like everything clicked sort of towards the end of the year. Did you still believe throughout that this was possible? Yeah,
I think definitely. I think we knew our best footy would be the best in the comp, and if we could display that on offense and defense, we'd go a long way, and it's sort of proven to be true.
Yeah, it seems like you set the tone, in particular from midfield. Obviously, you've got Mackenzie and Hodden alongside you. How do you feel you guys work as a combination? Yeah, I love playing alongside those guys, and it sucks it's probably the last game I'll play with them because we're on to bigger and better things as well. So, I've loved playing alongside them, and it's been awesome. Yeah. Must be pretty handy to have your brother there as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love playing with him. Hopefully, follows after me. He's got his own journey, but hopefully follows after me and comes to Brisbane as well. And we can have a long career together. Love playing with him, and couldn't think of anything better.
Yeah, and one more junior game next week. Pretty pumped for that one.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I think that'll be another step up from this, and just another opportunity for Pacific Metro boys to sort of seal the national championship and go out on a high, finishing our junior careers on a high with me and the Dragon boys on the NAB League Grand Final, and then hopefully we can win the national championship as well.
Yeah, and pretty star-studded, obviously, in the Dragons side. You've got plenty of boys that are going to play Metro. Who are some maybe flying under the radar that you want to give a good pump up to?
I think Nathan Scholars had an incredible year. I think he's moved into the Metro side now, and he's a chance to play next week. But he's been incredible for us down back all year, and gets a fair bit of the ball, but does an incredible job locking down some of the best tall forwards in the comp. So he's been incredible, and I think he'll go a long way with his footy as well.
Yeah, and just quickly a word on Cripper as well. Obviously, first year as coach, pretty unbelievable result.
Oh, he's the best coach I've ever had, I reckon. I'm not just saying that because I'm on a high and we've won, but he's been instrumental for us. We would not be here without him, that's for sure. I think he's come in and made a huge impact on everyone. I think some guys sort of not knowing what he was like in pre-season sort of maybe discredited a little bit of what the system was going to be like, and that's what junior footy is about sometimes, just individuals trying to get drafted. But
once everyone bought into his style and his philosophies, we just gelled and went. And we credit to him. He's done incredible amounts for us to get to this stage.
Yeah. Oh, congrats, mate. Been a pleasure watching you play.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Cheers.
All the best.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks.
That was Sandringham Dragons, soon to be Brisbane Lions player Will Ashcroft, of course, potential number 1 pick there, father-son prospect. So that was him chatting to Michael. What we're going to do now is go from his Sandringham game to his Vic Metro game, where he's red-hot favourite for, I guess, the MVP of the series. But what we're going to start with is just a few details, some of the changes to the teams, potentially how the game might go down. It's Vic Metro, Vic Country, Marvel Stadium, Thursday. It's been moved to 12:35 for anyone who was planning on going in the evening when it was originally around 4:35. So it's moved a few hours early, obviously, due to the public holiday. It's free entry, gate 5, set to open at 12 p.m. for those who do want to come along. And it's, of course, broadcast on both Fox and the AFL website. Both sides undefeated thus far. Metro, no surprise. Country, bit of a surprise because mainly they were missing a lot of players at the start of the year, obviously through injured. There were a few. The Braden George one, he's still out, unfortunately, but they get a few back, but they were missing a number of them. Bailey Humphrey was another one. So they've done really well to get to 3-zip, and it sets up this perfect final, doesn't it? Like, the AFL couldn't have written this any better.
Yeah.
The 2 Vic teams, undefeated, winner takes it all.
Yeah, and in grand final week, public holiday, no reason not to fill Marvel, well, not fill it, it's probably impossible, but no reason not to get down and watch the next gen. So, it's always exciting. I kind of like watching champs games at Marvel Stadium because it's like just empty enough that you can hear the players, their chat and things like that, and all the big hits. So, it's always pretty cool, and looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game, hopefully.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, that it feels like local footy in a stadium, like, because you still got that crowd, you can hear everything, you hear the players when they're talking, you can hear the crowd, individual sort of cheers or jeers or whatever it is. We do know they're probably going to have their cheer squads at respective ends, so it's going to be really fascinating. No doubt some of the ones that were there from Friday night, the Dandenong Sandringham ones, but yeah, hopefully we can hear them, because if they do sell it out, that'd be quite a feat.
Well, I still remember, like, massive side note, in 2019, I think it was Western Australia versus Vic Country at Marvel Stadium. The first time I ever heard the phrase black duck to describe the swan on West Australia's kit was at Marvel Stadium because of a very boisterous crowd member. So, hoping for more of that. And maybe the big V is a W or something that we don't know of. We'll see.
Yeah, very facetious there. But yeah, it was quite an educational experience there. That was fantastic. But it's all Victorian talk here. They're the teams that are on show this week. Obviously, we got the Lark medal in contention, as I sort of alluded to. Look, I think we all kind of expect Will Ashcroft to get it, barring any kind of strange output happening here. But aside from Will Ashcroft, who's had a ridiculous carnival and ridiculous year, let's be honest, who are some of the other potential candidates that might push him for it?
Well, we do have the 3 MVPs, of course. For the remaining 3 sides, obviously the Allies had Harry Rouston, Ruben Gimby for WA, and Adam Deloya for South Australia. So they'd all be in contention. But I think for the 2 sides playing, that's probably the more realistic option. As you say, Ashcroft, and probably Jai Clark would be the other one from Vic Country. If I was to pick one, and maybe their MVP standout, he'd be the one, just consistent across every game, and a real leader, obviously the captain, and an absolute gun. We both love him. He's probably around the top 5 mark, or definitely top 10. So, yeah, I think he'd be another one in the mix. Yeah,
absolutely. And another one from Metro, potentially Matthew Jefferson after that 7-goal haul. If he has another one of them, he might get a few that are sort of considering it. But I think we can kind of, assume it'll be Ashcroft. He's almost been the default pick for people
for most awards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, that's always a potential, but we'll see what happens. We do know that you don't always have to win to get it. So even if Country get up, he could well get it.
Yeah.
I think Sam Walsh won his when they didn't win a game.
Well, also, like Finn O'Sullivan in the 16s this year, Country, were pretty far off winning the champ.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no. So I do think it will be out of those teams. I do think it'll be Ashcroft, barring perhaps a massive performance from Jai Clark. But yeah, he would also be the other one, I agree, that could be in that. In terms of players to watch, obviously, we don't have the final teams as of recording today on Tuesday, but a few players have come in. Bailey McDonald, UU Ashwin, Clay Tucker.
I can tell you about him if that's what you're going
go for one. Bailey McDonald, let's start.
Yeah, start from the top. So Bailey impressed at school footy level, came in late in the year back to the Oakley setup, and a real speedy customer. So if he plays, just watch for him to break the lines. Can play off halfback or the wing. Just that speed and his ability to take the game on are really impressive. That's why he got a state combine invite.
Yeah, absolutely. And Collingwood fans would be interested in UU Ashwin.
Yeah, he's one who's turned out for the VFL side as well. So, another one who's just got that speed on the outside, usually playing on the wing. And I think his ability to sort of chain possessions and be creative going forward, there his sort of strengths is more of that sort of attacking wingman. He's had really good form throughout the NAB League season. So, be good to see that rewarded if he gets a shot with Metro.
Yeah, and some of the others, obviously, Clay Tucker coming into that Metro squad.
Yeah, Clay Tucker, big ruck from Eastern. He's been good. He's one who is often recognised by the coaches for Eastern, so that's always a good sign. Those big sort of 200 centimetre rucks are always, of interest to recruiters. So that's why I guess he gets a look in as well.
Yeah, and
Grzycki, can probably leave that one to me if you like. He's I guess another from Oakley. 3 out of those 4 are, and that dynamic sort of swingman type. He probably, I would say, is better suited to defence. He's a really, really clean marker. Good leap, nice and athletic, and kicks the ball, pretty punchy. He's another pretty good prospect around that top 30 mark almost. All 4 of those are pretty exciting. They definitely have traits. It's just whether they can squeeze into a pretty stacked team.
Yeah, and Oakley have had quite a few of them. Obviously, Weddle as well back there. So they've got those plenty of names throughout the Metro team. Really, obviously, there's still going to be a few missing for that. We'll run through them in a moment. But for Country, obviously, Harvey Gallagher been rewarded for some ridiculous form this year. He's been fantastic. Bailey Humphrey too comes back from injury, so a couple of big inclusions.
Yeah, they could be massive. Like, you throw Harvey Gallagher down back, that potentially frees up someone like a Harley Reid to roam in midfield or up forward. And Bailey Humphrey as well in that mid-forward rotation is going to be unbelievable. Like, we know his power. I think he's a big game kind of player. And, after Gippsland couldn't get all the way in the NAB League, I think he'd be pretty hungry to really put on a big show in what's going to be the last junior game for most of the players that turn out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously a few that won't be there. A couple of big names. Braden George, not going to be there still for Country. Unfortunately, he did his ACL in that final game early against Sandringham. Oakley with our George Wardlaw, who I think for most people who've seen him as a top pick, if you missed the start of the season, you're wondering whether he's real or not, really, because he won the Academy medal, of course. People forget when he playing in a team alongside Will Ashcroft, who's won every other medal. But it was almost like he collected the one that Will couldn't get.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you can't forget how good George Wardlaw is. Like, some people may even rank him as the best. I disagree, but just because of how good Will Ashcroft is. But
you did at some stage, though.
I did, 100%. And that's just because I haven't seen him for more than just his top age year. You get to appreciate, I guess, how good he is and how good he can be. So, he probably won't play, but just definitely a top prospect, and that should be remembered.
I mean, just thinking about that Metro midfield, imagine like a Cam McKenzie being your 4th midfielder type thing. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they'll have like Sardis,
that's
where
the thing.
he plays as well.
Yeah,
because he didn't play for the first 3 games, Elijah Sardis. So whether he plays on the wing or through midfield, yeah, who knows? But yeah, it's pretty stacked in there for sure.
It's going to be an interesting time, I think, for them. Obviously, Jack O'Sullivan, Matt Jefferson as well for Metro.
Well, O'Sullivan, I've got both of them as question marks. O'Sullivan, obviously with that collarbone complaint for Country, sort of. Right, I'm not really sure whether he'll be playing. Obviously, we get the squad soon, and then Matt Jefferson with that leg fracture, you wouldn't suspect plays. And he did look sore in the NAB League finals when he was playing with that, or wildcard round, I should say. So, might not see them out there, unfortunately.
Yep. Now, we get to the most important part of this little segment. We need to get a tip and a margin. Who you think's going to win the Lark medal? Maybe best on in this game too, just to make it interesting. And the most goals for the game. So, who are you going to go with for all those?
I'm going to go tried and tested. So, ticked all the boxes for the NAB League decider when we did our tips there. So I'm going to go Metro. I'm going to tip them by 21.
Ooh, okay.
I think they'll do it pretty well. Will Ashcroft best on and Lark medal in a massive shock to. Let me check the notes. Massive shock to absolutely no one. Most goals, I'm going to go with Sheezel again. Yeah. So, just see if they can all pull it off one more time for me. What about you?
Well, this will come as a shock to no one. I'm going to go with Country. No, Country, I think they will win. We're going to give this another crack. Country by a point. Because that's what I did with Danny.
That's how confident you are.
Yeah, by a point. Look, I think it's going to be a thriller. I think 21 points, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think the Country have a lot of really good, consistent players. A lot of those Bendigo Pioneers that are... might give a few fears to the Oakley midfielders. Harvey Gallagher in there.
Unnecessary.
We have a look at this. If we have a look at the, I think, 1 point in terms of the Lark medal, I mean, look, it's hard to go past Ashcroft. I will go something different for best on. I'm going to go Bailey Humphrey coming in.
Yeah, nice one.
I think he'll also kick the most goals because I think he'll mostly spend forward and then rotate mid.
Oh, I'd love a bag of 5 from Bailey Humphrey for sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
No, absolutely. I think it'll happen as they win by a point.
Yep.
I think he's one of those that he doesn't need much time to get back into it. He might not have played at the level, but we saw what he did against the Knights coming back. Yeah. He's got that potential. He does have that real having to close the gap, I think, between his absolute best, where realistically he looks like the best player in the comp if he can just tighten it up, like that kind of aspect that he could just tear a game apart.
I think your prediction's a pretty good one as well. He might spend a bit more time forward. So, with that Country midfield, that was pretty settled with Sibkowski and Clark, of course, and Huswaite as well. So, might be a good shout. And
it's also, I reckon, someone who'd benefit from Humphrey being there is Aaron Cadman, because they're going to have to put a strong defender on Humphrey. I know they're not the same type of player, but it means that you can't afford to just leave Humphrey free because he's almost like a tall forward with his hands. Like, they're just ridiculous.
Oh, just his body work as well, yeah. He plays a bit, I guess, above his size sometimes, one-on-one. All
right, so we're going to end this segment, I guess, if you like, and just sort of round up the rest of the podcast. So we're going to be covering the MVPs and the All-Australian team, of course, once it's announced, which will be sometime post the carnival. We'll know the Lark medalist on Thursday once the game's done. Of course, we've got power rankings again coming up. It feels like they just came around.
You're killing me, Pete.
Yeah, they're only just over a week away now. Yep. So back into October. There's only a couple left. October, then November, then the draft, and wowee. So draft profiles are going to be starting in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for them. Every draft profile, we're going to start with obviously the national combine invites and then get onto the state ones after that for pocket profiles, and the draft guide that's going to be coming out in the works. Just stay tuned for that as well. So exciting time.
I can actually see the graphic designer working on that over your shoulder, Pete, and wowee, you want to get your hands on this one. It looks pretty good.
Absolutely. It's going to be a fantastic one. Best one we've ever done. It's going to be out a bit earlier this year. So really exciting times. We'll be announcing all that, of course. But yeah, that's just about all we have time for today on the Final Siren podcast. If you've got any suggestions that you'd like to see on this podcast, perhaps who to chat to, any segments, anything like that, please let us know, because we're going to be doing a series of your favourite sort of pocket podcasts at some point in October once all the games are done, because we're going to be taking
we have no
requests.
content, that's why.
We're going to be taking requests on different topics, so if you want to talk about a particular one, let us know. But yeah, that pretty much wraps us up. So make sure you're following us on socials at Rookie Me Central, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Michael, thanks for joining me today.
Pleasure as always, mate. Thank you.
Of course it is. I've been your host, Peter Williams. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you'll join us again next time.